Jane Withers, a relatively positive example, in the late 1930s and early 1940s, Jane Withers earned adult-level paychecks up to $2,750 to $3,000 per week under her Fox contracts. Her films were among the top box office hits in 1937 and 1938. As a minor, however, she had no direct access to her earnings. Her parents, Walter and Lavinia Withers, controlled everything. Her personal allowance started at just $5 a week in 1938 and rose to only $10 by 1941. Despite generating millions for the studio, unlike many others, Jane avoided financial ruin. Her parents invested much of her money in trusts and securities, so she received a substantial portion as an adult. Point 2. Jackie Coogan, the star of The Kid and Hollywood's first true child superstar, Jackie Coogan earned an estimated $3 to $4 million in the 1920s. His mother, Lillian, and stepfather, Arthur Bernstein, controlled the funds and spent lavishly on furs, diamonds, cars, and an extravagant lifestyle. By 1938, when Jackie, at age 24, gained access to his accounts, almost everything was gone. He sued his mother, but she claimed no promises were made and described him as a bad boy. The family argued his earnings were family income under parental control. Jackie recovered only about $126,000, a tiny fraction. The scandal led to California's Coogan Act, or Coogan Law, requiring 15% of a child performer's gross earnings to be placed in a blocked trust account. Point 3. Shirley Temple. In the mid-1930s, Shirley Temple was America's highest-paid child actress, earning around $3.4 million by adulthood. Her father, George Temple, managed her finances. At age 22, when she requested an accounting, only about $44,000 remained. Much had funded the family's luxurious lifestyle, expensive cars, large staff, and her father's failed investments. Questions arose about proper trusts, but proving misappropriation was difficult under the era's laws. Shirley chose not to sue to avoid public family scandal, as detailed in her memoir Child Star. She started over with far less than expected. Point 4. Baby Marie Osborne. Starting at age 3, Baby Marie Osborne, born Helen Alice Myers, appeared in 29 films. By age 8, she was deemed too old. Raised by adoptive parents Leon and Edith Osborne, who branded her Baby Marie, she reportedly earned $800 to $1,000 weekly in the 1910s, 1920s. As a teen, she discovered they weren't biological parents and had squandered her earnings on a lavish life. A trust fund existed, but she received nothing from it. She returned to Hollywood as a stand-in for Ginger Rogers, Deanna Durbin, Betty Hutton, and built a career in wardrobe/costume supervision, including on Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor. Point 5. Baby Peggy. Peggy Montgomery, a silent film sensation from 1921 to 1925, Baby Peggy made 9 features and 150 shorts, receiving over 1.2 million fan letters in 1922. Reports claimed earnings of up to $1 to $1.5 million annually, earning her the nickname $1 Million Baby. Her parents spent it on cars, homes, and luxuries, setting aside almost nothing. On tours, she received just a nickel per appearance. Career damage from her father's disputes with producer Sol Lesser ended major work by age 6. The family declined further when a business advisor fled with remaining funds. She never sued, unlike Coogan, and started over as an extra, later becoming a writer and early Hollywood researcher. Point 6. Freddie Bartholomew. Raised by his aunt Millicent Mary Bartholomew, effectively his mother, Freddie became a star with Little Lord Fauntleroy, 1936, and Captains Courageous, 1937. A 1935 court appointed his aunt guardian of his person and property. His biological parents later arrived and fought for control, leading to a compromise, portions in trust, but 10% to his father and 5% each to 2 sisters. The 7-year battle drained nearly everything on legal fees and payments. MGM contract fights kept him unemployed for a year, costing major roles. He served in World War II, then became an advertising executive, never living off childhood wealth. Point 7. Haley Mills. Disney star of the early 1960s, Pollyanna, The Parent Trap. Haley earned significant sums placed in a trust by her parents. Upon accessing it as an adult, it was nearly empty, largely due to Britain's high taxes, up to 91%. In 1960, her father set up Sussex Productions Limited. Studios paid the company, not Haley. At 13, she signed a 5-year contract for just £400 per year, without full understanding. The company earned far more, £40,000 plus in year 1, but after fees, taxes, and expenses, she saw little pocket money of £3 per week. She challenged it in court but lost in 1975, potentially missing out on £2.8 million. Mary Miles Minter starting on stage at 5 and films at 10, Mary became a silent era star. Her mother, Charlotte Shelby, allegedly faked documents to bypass child labor laws. In 1925, Mary sued her mother for an accounting of $1.3 million in earnings. The case settled out of court in 1927, in Paris. She never regained her career, impacted by the William Desmond Taylor scandal, and lived modestly on real estate income later. 9. Gary Coleman. Different Strokes star Gary Coleman earned $100,000 per episode at his peak. A 1979 guardianship placed funds under his adoptive parents and manager Anita De Thomas. At 18, assets moved to a trust still controlled by adults. In 1989, he sued, alleging mishandling, salaries/commissions taken, and misuse, e.g., funding a failed business. A 1993 ruling awarded him $1.28 million, but kidney disease and health issues prevented career revival. He lived modestly and died in 2010 at 42.10. Dana Plato. Also from Different Strokes, Dana's career declined amid personal struggles. As an adult, 23 in 1988, she gave power of attorney to an accountant, who allegedly vanished with most savings, leaving less than $150,000, and over $1 million from others, never caught or prosecuted. She fell into poverty, working retail in Las Vegas. In 1991, she robbed a video store with a BB gun, recognized instantly. She died of an overdose in 1999 at 34.11. Jackie Cooper. Nominated for an Oscar at a young age for Skippy, 1931, Jackie earned modestly at first but saw funds deducted like business expenses, trusts, savings, household costs, and salaries for his mother and grandmother, $75 per week each. His mother sent $100 per week to his dead father, 1935 to 1948, totaling $67,600 from Jackie's earnings. No major lawsuit occurred. The exploitation was quieter but real. 12. The Dion quintuplets. Born in 1934 in Ontario, the 5 identical girls, Yvonne, Annette, Cecile, Emily, Marie, became a tourist attraction. The government took custody in 1935 to protect them, building Quintland, drawing 3 million visitors, 1934 to 1943, and millions in souvenirs/gift shop revenue. A trust existed, but costs, staff, facilities, consumed much. The surviving 3, in their 60s, lived on $746/month combined. In 1998, they sought compensation. After outrage, Ontario settled for $4 million and apologized. These stories highlight a grim pattern. Child stars generated enormous wealth, but adults, parents, guardians, managers, or states often prioritized their own lifestyles or operations over the child's future. Laws like the Coogan Act emerged from scandals, yet loopholes and weak enforcement allowed exploitation to persist across eras. Around the same time, Juliet Riley was presented under the stage name Mary Miles Minter. In 1925, Minter filed a lawsuit against her own mother. She demanded an accounting, open the books, and show where her money went. Public reports referenced $1.3 million. There was no courtroom victory. The case ended in an out-of-court settlement signed by Minter and Shelby on January 24, 1927 at the American consulate in Paris. Public sources usually do not say how much Minter received. She never regained her former career. After the William Desmond Taylor scandal, she effectively disappeared from major film work. In later years, she lived outside Hollywood with finances tied to Los Angeles real estate. Decades later, even with the Coogan law already on the books, another child star would still end up fighting over money in court. Gary Coleman was the face of American television in the 1980s. Different Strokes made him the most famous boy in the country. At the height of the show, he was earning around $100,000 per episode. In 1979, a financial guardianship was set up for Gary Coleman with his adoptive parents Willie and Edmonia Sue Coleman as his personal managers and business manager Anita Diomas handling the money. When he turned 18, the guardianship ended, but the assets were moved into a trust that his parents still controlled. In 1989, Coleman went to court. He sued his parents and to Thomas. The claim was blunt. Money was being pulled from his earnings as salaries, commissions, and management fees while the assets were being mishandled. The defense argued Coleman's parents were legally entitled to 70% of his earnings. Coleman's attorney countered that part of the missing money was an unpaid loan and that Anita Diomas used his funds to start a failed interior design business. In February 1993, the court put a number on it, about $1.28 million. The ruling went in Coleman's favor, but it still did not bring financial stability. Music, as an adult, he no longer lived like a TV sensation. Chronic kidney disease and constant medical care kept his career from returning to its peak. He survived on occasional jobs and small appearances, lived in Utah, and in 2010, after a fall down the stairs, died in the hospital at just 42. Another child star from Different Strokes followed, and her fate turned out even worse. Before the scandals and arrests, Dana Plato was the teenage daughter that audiences knew from Different Strokes. Her case came later after child stardom, but the money still ended up in a trusted adult's hands first. As her career declined and her life became unstable, Plato handed control of her finances to an accountant and signed a power of attorney. In 1988, when she was about 23, he gained full access to her accounts, agreements, and money. Biographical accounts say the accountant disappeared with most of her savings, leaving Plato with less than $150,000. The same accounts claimed that he also took more than $1 million from other clients. They further state that he was never found or prosecuted despite what was described as an exhaustive search. In other words, there was almost no one to sue and nothing realistic to recover. After that, Plato fell into real poverty. In Las Vegas, she worked behind the counter at a 1 Phillips on West Flamingo Road. Then in 1991 came the lowest point. She walked into a video store, pulled out a BB gun, and took $164 from the register. The clerk recognized her immediately. Police were called at once. In May 1999, Dana Plato died of an overdose at just 34. One disastrous signature became part of the collapse. This time it wasn't an unknown accountant. The people handling the money were family. At just 9 years old, Jackie Cooper became one of the youngest nominees ever for the Academy Award for Best Actor for Skippy in 1931. The public saw a child prodigy. The adults around him saw a weekly paycheck. Once Cooper was earning $13 a week, he was left with only $400 in real money. The rest was broken down like corporate accounting, as if he were a business, not a child. Part of his pay went straight into a trust, $900 a week. Separate lines covered emergency savings and household upkeep. In that same breakdown, the adults drew regular salaries. His mother and grandmother received $75 a week each. Even Jackie's clothes, schooling, and recreation were listed as fixed expenses, like production costs. For years, Cooper believed his father was dead. Then he learned the truth. From 1935 to 1948, his mother was sending his father $100 a week, paid, of course, from Jackie's earnings, not her own. Over those years, that added up to roughly $67,600. There was no loud courtroom war like Jackie Coogan's. His story was quieter. The money still moved through adult hands. And the last story wasn't about one child. It was about 5. And this time the state was involved too. In May 1934, near Corb Bay, Ontario, Eleazar Dion gave birth to 5 identical girls: Yvonne, Annette, Cecile, Emily, and Marie. They were so premature that each baby was said to be the size of a hand, and together they weighed about 14 pounds. Their father Oliva briefly signed a deal to exhibit them at the Chicago World's Fair, then cancelled it. But the Ontario government stepped in quickly. In 1935, the province took control of the girls, claiming it was protecting them from exploitation. Instead, it turned them into one of the biggest tourist attractions in North America. At first, nurses carried the girls onto a nursery balcony and showed them to crowds one by one with name signs held beside them. Later, the province built Queensland, a full complex where visitors watched the children on a strict schedule through glass around the playground. The sisters later recalled that even when the view was screened, they still saw the shadows and knew they were being watched. By 1937, about 3,000 people passed through Queensland each day. From 1934 to 1943, roughly 3 million tourists came through. Entry could be free on paper, but the site's gift shop generated millions. A huge souvenir industry grew around the girls. Postcards, dolls, dishes, and staged holiday photos sold to newspapers. A trust was set up for the girls. In practice, much of the money was consumed by the Quintland operation itself, including staff and facility costs. By the time the three surviving sisters, Annette, Cecilile, and Yvonne, were living together in Montreal in their 60s, their combined income was about $746 a month. Two of their sisters had already died. Emily died in 1954 and Marie died in 1970. In 1998, they asked for compensation, saying the trust money had disappeared or been taken. The government first offered just $2,000 a month for all three. After public outrage, Ontario agreed to a $4 million settlement and apologized. As these stories show, children earned enormous amounts of money and almost never had any real control over it. Adults called it protection, guardianship, or management. But again and again, the money paid for luxury cars, large homes, and household staff, not the child's future. Her mother, Charlotte Shelby, allegedly faked documents to bypass child labor laws. In 1925, Mary sued her mother for an accounting of $1.3 million in earnings. The case settled out of court in 1927, in Paris. She never regained her career, impacted by the William Desmond Taylor scandal, and lived modestly on real estate income later. 9. Gary Coleman. Different Strokes star Gary Coleman earned $100,000 per episode at his peak. A 1979 guardianship placed funds under his adoptive parents and manager Anita de Thomas. At 18, assets moved to a trust still controlled by adults. In 1989, he sued, alleging mishandling, salaries/commissions taken, and misuse, e.g., funding a failed business. A 1993 ruling awarded him $1.28 million, but kidney disease and health issues prevented career revival. He lived modestly and died in 2010 at 42.10. Dana Plato. Also from Different Strokes, Dana's career declined amid personal struggles. As an adult, 23 in 1988, she gave power of attorney to an accountant, who allegedly vanished with most savings, leaving less than $150,000, and over $1 million from others, never caught or prosecuted. She fell into poverty, working retail in Las Vegas. In 1991, she robbed a video store with a BB gun, recognized instantly. She died of an overdose in 1999 at 34.11. Jackie Cooper. Nominated for an Oscar at a young age for Skippy, 1931, Jackie earned modestly at first but saw funds deducted like business expenses, trusts, savings, household costs, and salaries for his mother and grandmother, $75 per week each. His mother sent $100 per week to his dead father, 1935 to 1948, totaling $67,600 from Jackie's earnings. No major lawsuit occurred. The exploitation was quieter but real. 12. The Dion quintuplets. Born in 1934 in Ontario, the five identical girls, Yvonne, Annette, Cecile, Emily, Marie, became a tourist attraction. The government took custody in 1935 to protect them, building Quintland, drawing 3 million visitors, 1934 to 1943, and millions in souvenirs/gift shop revenue. A trust existed, but costs, staff,